Alright, we are going to be going over a little interval magic. So I'm going to try to keep this quick and easy just because I don't want this to be like a 50-minute deep dive music theory video. So intervals are simply like distance between notes. So say I take a D and a G, that has a specific sound. And you won't get that sound with a D and an A, for example, because D and G sounds like D and A sounds like. I know that's really easy, like everyone knows that, but the reason is the intervals are different, and it's really useful to know intervals just because if your brain kind of has a concept down for it, you can start to recognize it and hear it wherever. And if you hear a musical idea in your head, you'll be able to like kind of get what's happening just if you know the intervals. So like, let's go back to D and G. So to calculate an interval, the easiest way I find is you just count how far apart these are, starting from usually the bottom note. So you go 1, you always start on the note you're at. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, so that's a 4 away. Crazy, right? So that's what you call, you ready? A perfect fourth. Insane, I know. But, yeah. So each interval has a different name based off of the number of how far away it is. So that's a fourth. This would be a third. This would be a fifth, sixth, seventh. You got it. Right? You either just call this a unison or an eighth, but no one uses eighth. You'll just hear unison. Anyway, now there is a few things where it's like, so I said 1, 2, 3, but what if I do this? Oh, what if I do this? So now 1, 2, 3. Well, there's actually multiple ways you could name this. And yeah, it's confusing, but it makes sense. So it all depends on your context. So this note could either be an F sharp, where you just take an F, raise it up to an F sharp, but it could also be a G flat, where you take a G and lower it to a G flat. And that changes the name of the interval. The intervals will sound exactly the same, but it does change the name where because when you go 1, 2, 3, you hit an F, and it's still an F, it's still a third. It's just, you would call this a major third, and the one that's closer you call a minor third. And this principle applies to every interval except a fourth and a fifth. Because for some reason people decided that instead when you take a fifth or a fourth, when you flatten it by 1, you get what's called a diminished fifth, and when you raise it by 1, you get what's called an augmented fifth. And the same with fourth, diminished, augmented. You get it, right? Now, for every other interval, it goes, if you make it smaller, it becomes minor. If you make it bigger, it becomes major. Now, how do you calculate it right off the bat? Say you had like B or A sharp and C sharp, right? So you would look at it and you would count the distance between your notes. So if you go from this note to this note, that's the closest possible movement you can do. Same here, same here. That's called a half step, right? It's a little different from a whole step. A whole step would be taking here to here. A whole step is when you skip over the closest possible note and go to the next closest possible one. Pretty straightforward. And you see if we go 1, so there's 1 whole step and 1 half step, right? That means it's a minor third. Minor thirds sound like that. And if I raise this up and go 2 whole steps, you get a major third. And to put the difference between major and minor into perspective, this is not the best way to explain it, but major sounds brighter, and then minor sounds kind of sadder. But yeah. So you know what a minor third sounds like. And let's say you really like that sound and you want to build another minor third. You put this on top. Well, then you get that nice sound, right? And then let's say you take that and you, okay, well, I'm going to keep this minor third, but I'm going to move this down to a major third. Alright, that sounds pretty nice. And then you say you just want to move this down, put a major third, put a major third, a minor third, and then you go on a major third. You get that. Those are some chords, but I'll explain those in another video, because chords is like an infinite hellscape of possibilities, and it's really fun, but just explaining it, it's a lot, so yeah, I'll talk about that another time.